All right, Richie, ACC 2024. We were just up in Charlotte for the kickoff. Let's go through, and I think we'll have pretty good arguments for the top of this. I'm very interested to see what the middle and the bottom of this looks like, but let's power rank the 17 now ACC teams. Did you throw Notre Dame in yours or no?
I
Where
did
you would
not.
have them?
They are not an ACC team.
I didn't either, but um, just wondering. I do like symmetry though. So like having we're the having an odd number of conference members of again only the ACC does. All right, number one power ranking the teams. We'll start from top to bottom. I'll go best to worst because I feel like people watching this probably care about the best team the most. So yeah, it's Florida State for me. It's Florida State until it's not. I think I probably would have had Clemson first last year until proven otherwise. In fact, I think I picked us to go 11-1, losing to Clemson. So yeah, I gave them the respect. But it's Florida State until it's not. Especially getting to play Clemson at home this year. Florida State to me is the best team in the conference. I don't necessarily think they have the most talent. I still probably put Clemson and Miami ahead of them on just pure roster full talent when it comes to rankings and stuff. But coaching considered, everything else considered, it's Florida State number one for me still.
Yeah, I have Florida State number one. I actually, people gave me a little bit of crap for it last year. I had Florida State number one last year just because I thought it was that year. Not that I'm some sort of Nostradamus when it comes to college football, but I certainly thought Florida State was the best last year, and I think they are the best this year. To your point, TJ, they are not the most talented roster in the conference, and they may not be top two. And you could make a very good argument for that. Just look to Bud Elliott's blue chip ratio. I think Clemson and Miami are the most talented rosters. But when it comes to coaching, I think Dabo, he's he's still a really, really good coach, but slowly getting left behind. But he's still my number two. I have Clemson number two after Florida State at number one.
Yeah, I agree. When you look at pure talent, the big thing that I don't think that the blue chip ratio factors in is talent does not always
Not as
equal
much,
success,
especially with
right?
the portal. Especially with
Yeah,
the portal.
it's hard to factor the portal in. Um, and it just talent doesn't mean everything. Now it means a lot, right? And
Yes.
so like, but talent and best are definitely two different things. I have Clemson second. I don't, I do think that Clemson. Man, Clemson could have three losses in the first five games. They play Georgia first. I think they lose that. They play us. I think they lose that. They play NC State as well early. And I think NC State's going to be good this year. In fact, they're my top four, which I won't give away the whole thing. But yeah, Clemson's got a lot to prove. They could also be 4-1. They could beat Florida State on the road. They could beat NC State. I still think they lose to Georgia. If they're 4-1 with wins against NC State and Florida State, especially the Florida State game on the road, knocking them off after last year. Clemson's going to be looked at as the team they're going to the playoff at that point, right? The rest of their schedule is pretty trash. So Clemson two for me as well. I got Miami and then NC State. I'm not buying Mario all the way. I'm not buying Miami all the way. I am saying that their schedule is absolute garbage this year. And man, if they can't find a way to win this year, then it's just never going to happen. They went out and spent more than any other team in the ACC. Like they've spent more money. They have absolutely invested here. This is their year to go. What's funny is this is their year to go all in and like buy all in for them. It's like, let's try and get to 10 wins and make it to Charlotte. Whereas we went all in last year to like win a national title. But yeah, Miami to me is third. I think there's a grouping of teams, like right here that are like okay to good, but I'm not confident enough in anyone else to think that they could run the table well enough to get to Charlotte. So Miami three for me, NC State fourth. What do you got?
So this is pretty good actually because we're going to start seeing some pretty big discrepancies. I have Louisville number three in my power rankings here. I didn't put the schedule into consideration when I did this little project here, but I have Louisville, and then my number four, which I think is one of Florida State's trickiest, maybe toughest game on the schedule. Considering where it lands, I have SMU number four. So I have Louisville three and SMU number four. I think SMU, Brett Lashley is a really good coach. He's got some studs coming back. He's going to lose pretty much his entire roster of as far as production goes after this season. But what he's bringing back this year, I would not be surprised to see Southern Methodist in Charlotte.
Yeah, I don't think they're. Yeah, I have them a little bit lower. So Miami, and then I have NC State. I didn't really talk about them too much, but I think they bring in a ton of talent. I also think their quarterback transfer is going to be really good for them this year. So I think they, and I wasn't really considering. I'll say that I'm not really considering like scheduling this at all. Just SMU being a tougher game, just because it's for Clemson or on the road or anything like that. But yeah, they're a little lower for me. I think they're a team that, like, if things break right, they could have a good year. I don't think that I think they're probably a 3-ish, 4-ish loss ACC team. I think they drop to us. I think they play Louisville the week after us. So they've got a tough road to hoe. But NC State, so I'll tell you what I have leading up to SMU. So this will be Florida State, Clemson, Miami, NC State, Louisville is who I have next. I have them a little bit lower, a little bit of a drop off, a little regression from last year. I don't think they're as good. So I guess from second to fifth-ish, although I don't know if they were the second best team or just, had the easiest schedule in the conference's history. But either way, Louisville. Then I've got Virginia Tech. I think Virginia Tech's going to have a really good year this year. Okay. And I think they could sneak up there past Louisville or NC State. And then I have SMU. I like drones a lot at Virginia Tech. If I had to, so maybe with the exception of Miami, the way I tried to think about this was if it was a neutral site game, who would I pick to win the game? And that's why I have Virginia Tech, Louisville, and NC State ahead of SMU. So, like, in a neutral site, I think Louisville's beaten them, which I guess you do too because you had Louisville one ahead. But in a neutral site, I think Virginia Tech's beating them. I think they're going to be, kind of underrated, sneaky good this year. I think NC State's beating them. Again, Miami, I think I probably lean Miami a little bit, though. The Lashley thing makes it interesting, but I just think Miami would overpower them from a talent perspective. So, Florida State, Clemson, Miami, NC State, Louisville, Virginia Tech, and then SMU for me. All right, I'll get right back to it, but first, I want to give some love to our friends over at gotspears.com. We appreciate John and his team for all that they do for us here at Double Fries No Slaw, and they are still running this deal through the end of the month, so you've got about a half a month left to get a $100. That's an in-person price on his 6-foot spears. They've also got the 6-foot spear with the torch. It's a little more. It's $165. You can pick that up in person, whether you live around the Tallahassee area or you're going to a game this year. Just send him a text. Give him about a 2 weeks notice as to when you're going to be coming and picking that up, which game you're going to. And you won't have to pay for shipping. You won't have to wait. They're super backed up. If you're still waiting on one, send him a text. Go pick it up in person, whether you're going to a game or you've got somebody local in town that can get it for you. Appreciate John for his support. Also, go check them out, gotspears.com right now.
All right, so I'm at Florida State, Clemson, Louisville, SMU, and then I have Miami. And the thing with Miami, I think they probably are the most talented team in the conference. You could easily make an argument for that. You could argue Clemson. I think those are the two, but I do think Miami is the most talented. But we have enough of a sample size of Mario Cristobal's game day coaching that it doesn't make that much of a difference. Like, okay, yeah, you have the best players, but if you don't know what you're doing, then why? People make a lot of money betting against Miami, and I think that will continue to happen. So I have Florida State, Clemson, Louisville, SMU, Miami. Then I have North Carolina State. I think they're going to be really good. I think Dave Doreen is just a good coach, and he's that guy that's going to be like Leonard Hamilton was for the longest time in the ACC with Florida State. It's a team you don't really think about, but man, they'll sneak up and beat you, and they might whoop you when you don't expect it. So I think NC State is up there, and I have Virginia Tech right after that.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. Yeah, I think Virginia Tech behind NC State makes sense. I think, again, I think SMU could, if it breaks right, but I think SMU is like right behind that first batch of teams. I do think that, the welcome to the Power 5 is Power 4, I guess, right now, is going to be a little bit of a wake up. I think depth on the lines of scrimmage will probably be where they see it the most. All right, so my second group is, so like, I think we had this different orders, but what's interesting is we had the same 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yeah.
6, 7. I think the best of the rest, I'll just do one here. I think the best of the rest is Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech's the next best team in the conference.
That's who I have.
All right. Yeah. I think
I
that's,
think Key is a phenomenal coach.
yeah. And I like Case
He's
King.
going to get a
I
better
think,
job. Yeah.
I think best of the rest is I want to almost like, what do you call it? Trademark that for this show only. But yeah, Georgia Tech, easily my number 8 team. I really can't see them beating any of those teams ahead of where we're at. Maybe SMU, like they could sneak up and beat any of those teams. I mean, they beat Miami last year. They could beat SMU. But like, I don't think they could beat any of those teams consistently, or if both teams played their best game, like Georgia Tech's not winning. After that, I've got a couple Tobacco Road schools. I've got Duke and then Carolina. I think Duke's going to be pretty. I don't think they're going to be amazing. I think Duke will be pretty good with Manny. I think he'll institute some good defense for that. I like them better than a lot of the other teams in the conference. I don't think there's a lot of like. I think we're getting kind of the no offense to any Syracuse fans watching, but I think we're getting kind of the bottom of the barrel at this point. And I got Duke after Georgia Tech and then UNC.
All right, so this is great podcasting, by the way, because I overlooked one team after North Carolina State. I did have UNC, then VT, then Georgia Tech.
Ooh, that's high for UNC to me.
Yeah, but Mac Brown is old. He's going to have a solid team. But then when we get back beyond Georgia Tech, I had Duke just like you, and then this might be a little high, but I have Cal. I just think Cal is a team that I think. They're not going to be good. They might not even make a bowl, but I do have them as a team, and then I have Pitt right behind them.
Yeah, so I've got, like we said, Duke and UNC. I actually have Syracuse next, just because they brought in a bunch of transfers, and I believe in Fran Brown, so I have Q's next. Then I'm just going to run through the end of mine because all these teams suck. Sorry.
Yeah, let's go. Let's just run through this.
And so my kind of tiers are those first 7 that we had. Georgia Tech's better than everybody else. It's kind of a break off of Duke, North Carolina, and Syracuse are like my next 3. And then the rest I don't think matter. Again, sorry if you're a fan of one of these. UVA, I'll give them enough respect to have them next. Cal next. Pitt, just because they play tough. Bottom 3 of Wake Forest, BC, Stanford. So, yeah, sorry if you're a fan of one of those teams.
Yeah. So I'll just go through my 17 real quick, and I'll label them off in tiers. So, again, top tier, Florida State, Clemson. I think that's tier 1. I think you cut it off right there. Louisville, SMU, Miami. I'll throw NC State in there as well, just because I think they're going to be solid every single time. Tier 2. My next tier, UNC, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, and I'll even throw Duke in there because they've earned that respect at this point, as odd as that is to say. And then the final tier, I have Cal, Pitt, BC, Syracuse, Wake, Stanford, and I have UVA last, TJ. UVA does nothing for me heading into the season.
Man, brutal on them. No, so the only one I have a problem with is UVA. Ahead of or behind BC. I think, or not UVA, sorry. Syracuse ahead of BC. I think Syracuse is going to be a lot better this year than BC is. That's just my take. I could be wrong on that.
No, that's fair. That's why we do this show. We're not here to agree on everything.
I'm going to believe in Fran Brown here for a moment. So,